So every so often, as I travel the country and the world, I run into alums, some of whom I knew because they were my students, but some of them I haven't known personally but have heard about. Today's guest speaker is one of those, graduate of the class of 1967, I think. Gareth Caldbeck was known to me because I coached with one of his classmates for 19 years, Coach Bruce Johnson. Some of you know him. And so he told stories about Gareth and what a great guy he was. And so I always like to bring in alums who have been successful in whatever walk of life because they sat where you sit at one point. Mr. Caldbeck's a retired attorney. He resides in Naples, Florida with his wife Diane. He's a board-certified attorney with a focus on medical negligence, product liability, and personal injury matters. And he earned the Martindale-Hubbell's highest rating in legal ability and ethics, and was a president of the Vermont chapter of the American Board of Trial Advocate before he left the state. But that's not the only reason, because his legal career was so accomplished that I wanted him to speak to you. When I met him, I found out that he and I share a lot of the same passions. He's a voracious reader and has published a book, self-published a book, called Words to Remember, Mine and Others, in which he compiled all of the best writing that he has found, words to remember from Emerson and Thoreau and the like, and also has added some of his own writing to that mix. A book on acceptance and attitude, character, courage, perseverance, self-reliance, all of things we speak about in here. And as I listen to him speak, I've actually used some of his stories in previous chapels. He's a basketball coach, volunteer basketball coach for 14-year-olds. He volunteers as a teacher at the college level for trial lawyers practicing in a moot mock trial court competition. So one of his favorite hobbies is photography in Vermont to take photos of our foliage coming back to his home state. I think he's one of the finest men I've met in my alumni travels, and I have no clue what he's going to talk to you about. All I know is that there will be words to remember. So please welcome Gareth Caldbeck.
Good morning. I want to talk to you this morning about those times in your life when you really want to do something and you know you should do it. Those times when you know that if you do it, it'll help you grow as a person. It might get you just a little bit closer to that person that you want to become. But you're afraid. You feel that if you do it, you won't do it well. Sometimes you feel that if you do it, you won't do it perfectly. Either way, you're afraid you're going to fail. And so you make a choice, and you choose not to do it. You're at a stage in your lives where new and different things are coming at you every day. And because they're new, they can be frightening. And when we're up against frightening things, sometimes we choose to avoid them. The problem with avoiding these new things is that many of them are opportunities for you to grow. That's why I want to talk to you today about the fear of failure and how you need to respond to it. And I want to begin with an example from my own life. When I was a young lawyer, I decided to call a judge to ask him if he'd recommend me for a job. And so I did. I dialed the phone. The phone was ringing. Everything was going well. And then I heard his voice answer. And as soon as I heard his voice, something happened inside me. And what happened is that my heart started to pound. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. It didn't help when he said hello a second time. And what was happening is I was having a panic attack. And so you know what I did? I really did what any bright young lawyer would have done, I'm sure, is I started to cough intentionally. to fill those gaps between my words. So as soon as I did that, I start to think, I'm starting now to think what's going through his mind. And what's racing through my mind is he's saying to himself, wow, this kid's not only having a panic attack, now he's coughing on purpose. He's faking a cough. Well, I got through that. It was not a great experience, believe me. But I noticed after that every time I stepped into a courtroom, every time I had to speak publicly, address a judge, argue to a jury, those same feelings would come over me. And I realized what was happening is that I wanted to be a trial lawyer, and I wanted to be a good one. And when I came to those steps that I knew I would have to take in order to be a good trial lawyer, I was so afraid that I would make a mistake in court, that I would forget something, that I wouldn't do well, that I was freezing. I was afraid of failure. So I thought to myself, well, if you're afraid of failing, why don't you at least do what you can do to minimize the risk of failure? And for a trial lawyer, and really for every one of you, that means preparation. And so I began my career. Every time I would step into a trial, I would have been prepared and prepared and prepared. I'd know my case. I'd know my other side, my opponent's case. Okay, that was what made me more comfortable. And I can't tell you that my fear went away. I think I'm afraid every time I talk to anybody. But I can tell you that what I learned as a trial lawyer is that I could be afraid and successful at the same time. Fear couldn't hurt me. It's how I chose to respond to it that could hurt me or help me. And I have no doubt that my success as a trial attorney stemmed from my fear of failure and how I chose to respond to it. Lincoln once said, and I love these words, the best way to destroy an enemy is to make him your friend. That's my advice to you with fears. When you feel fear come on, welcome it, smile. It's like, here it comes again. And if you can't do that, at least accept it. Understand that it's a sign that you have an opportunity to move to the next level. It's normal for all of you at your stage in life to be afraid every day. You have new things coming at you every day, and that's why you have to leave your comfort zones. Whenever we're outside our comfort zones, we are afraid. But you have to leave your comfort zones. They are dangerous places. They are resting places, really. Comfort zones are places where we can sit and rest and watch others grow. If you want to grow, you have to have the courage to leave your comfort zones. You have to have the courage to confront the fears that you create within yourselves. I'm speaking of the courage to do what can be called little great acts. They're little because to the outside world they may seem inconsequential, insignificant, sometimes even normal. They are great because they can transform who you are. So it can be as little as raising your hand in class, asking a teacher for help, running for student council, trying out for a sports team that you're afraid you might not make. It can be the courage for the first time to speak to that schoolmate that you've noticed never speaks to anyone, and no one ever speaks to her, or just the opposite. It can be having the courage to introduce yourself to a classmate who seems to be friends with everyone but you. My hope is that you will come to recognize fear for what it is, a nuisance that can never impede your progress in life if you confront it. And my hope, too, is that you will come to celebrate your little great acts, those times when you recognize that you have stepped outside your comfort zone and into what really is the only part of your world in which you can grow. And so the next time you're afraid, that time when you see yourself failing, when you don't believe in yourself, I hope that you will remember these words, because they can change your life. When you start to sweat, when your body shakes, when your heart pounds, when every part of you wishes you were somewhere else, look out. Courage has a chance to be born. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gareth. Even better than I imagined. And anytime you want to come and take over this podium again, you'll be my guest. That was awesome.